My question is, in 4 years, how did 20 million Democrats, who basically it's the same ideology, Biden and Harris, where did they all go? How did they evaporate in 4 years? Interesting. And again, Harris has not conceded yet. She's probably again on her 10th margarita, thinking about when she's going to say what she's going to say. Margarita. Yeah, but one of the good things is, again, one of the J.D. Vance, who's the VP, a young Catholic guy. I've been told by Hail Billy. I've been told by people that know him that he's very influenced by the St. Paul Center, Scott Hahn's, his Institute of Biblical Theology. That's how he came into the church, is by immersing himself in Catholic biblical theology. And I've also heard that he has a deep admiration for Bishop Strickland. So that's a good thing. What say you?
Yeah, somebody just sent me a post from Donald Trump Trump Jr. I haven't seen, except for Doug Imhoff, right? Yeah. Kamala's husband. I haven't seen a man beat a woman this bad since the Olympics. So I haven't seen. I'm talking about the election. I haven't seen a man beat a woman this bad since the Olympics. I think what the humor again. If had Trump lost, we would not be happy, but we would all go back to work today. And how humorless. And how even when Kamala tried to strike the tone of humor using Saturday Night Live and these foul cross-dressers that mock the Catholic faith, there's no humor in that. It's offensive. And so I think of the quote of Hilaire Belloc: "Wherever the Catholic sun doth shine, there is always laughter and good red wine. At least I've always found it so. Benedicamus Domino." Let the Lord let us give praise to the Lord. So we have to continue joyfully, right? And even shout a couple of whoopies, right? Yay, we're happy.
Exactly.
And bring the joy of the gospel to that was another joke, by the way. Whoopee, right? You got to bring the
She's
joy.
She's not very happy today.
No way.
By the way, Kamala's whole the theme of her campaign was something about joy. I don't think there's a lot of joy today. I know there's a lot of margaritas, but not a lot of joy.
Yeah. Where does that come from? Let's ask ourselves, where does that come from? And it's very simple. It's very simple. And it's a pattern that's played out. I've been playing the politics game or watching it for the last 38 years. And it's very simple. When you don't believe in God, when you don't have a fundamental principle that you believe in, nature abhors a vacuum, right? So what happens is politics becomes the God for these people. And so they take it so much more seriously than we do, than our side does. We would have gone to work this morning. You know how many people took today off just in case Trump Trump won. But what you see is the prism through which their side looks through is different from what we look through. If I ask Dan, or if you ask me what I am, I would say I'm a Catholic, I'm a father, I'm a husband, I'm a businessman, and I'm a conservative. In that order. They don't have much of they abort their children. They don't believe in marriage, or they have these faux mockery of marriages. They don't believe in God. And so what happens is politics gets moved up in the hierarchy and the priority of things for these people. And so they can't stand for it to be joked about, for it to be taken lightly, for someone not to go vote. That's why they're professionals at this, because it holds the utmost of priority in their life. They take an insult about Kamala drinking margaritas about the same way that you and I take the perpetual sisters of indulgence. They take it in the same fashion, because if you take our lives and apply it to them, religion and liberalism, and that's their God. They have their own sacraments of abortion, of homosexual marriage. They have their other sacraments that take the place of those of us who have God in our lives and can really take everything else with a grain of salt. My priorities are absolutely positively not the same as the radical Kamala Harris voter.
Lewis, and you can see what team Harris is on and Biden's on. I mean, you could just, on the internet, you can find a lot of source material. I'm looking here. witches for Kamala Harris, Satanists and witches for Biden's. Another article, witches casting spells on President Trump. Another
Did you
article.
see the one, Jesse? This was interesting. Did you see the one yesterday? Witches out of the West Coast, the left coast, were complaining that their spells against Trump were having no effect. Isn't that interesting? Did you see that one? I'm not, it's funny and it's ludicrous, but it's very serious at the same time. There were people out there throwing spells, voodoo, hexes, other malefices, as Kyle Clement would say, their way, his way, and they were bouncing off just like bullets in Butler, Pennsylvania.
And the reason is because so many people are praying for him. He has so much prayer power, just basically like the light of Christ just falling upon him, and because God needs him for such a time as this. Dan?
Yeah, no, I think you and I were talking earlier about this is like a King Cyrus moment, you know. God uses a pagan king to release his people from slavery, and so we shouldn't look beyond. There are precedences we see over the course of salvation history where God will use even ungodly people or even unperfect people to bring about change to deliver his people. And had he lost, we would have to accept the fact that God is going to punish us for our own sins. The wheat and the weeds are going to grow together. But back to what Lewis says, prayer begets what it signifies. This is significant. So, the witches, sometimes we get more good data from the field, good intel from the field, from what the other side is doing. Our curses aren't working. I thought that was very telling. Why aren't they working? Prayer begets what it signifies. Blaise Pascal says that God bestowed upon man the gift of prayer so that they might experience the dignity of being causes. And we're seeing this causality of the church praying for, having masses said for. So Father Ripperger's prayer of consecration. I know a lot of people were praying that prayer of consecrating the election to the Blessed Mother under her title, right? The Immaculate Conception, which is this country. That's the titular feast of this country, the Immaculate Conception, which we're going to celebrate here in a few weeks. And so the church praying, Father Heilman and Doug Barry doing a novena for the election, to safeguard the election, etc., to reclaim our country through prayer, protecting our president and our elected officials. We need to pray more for them and stop cursing them as well. Pray more for them. And so one last thing, and I'll throw it back to you, Jess. Lewis talks about conservatism. And within that, whether it's a conservative Catholic or a conservative politically minded, they're a conservative, by definition, conserves a hierarchy of values, right? And so Lewis listed it off, like at the side chapel at the University of Notre Dame, the Basilica there, right? The side door into the Basilica, God, Country, Notre Dame, right? Now we see a hierarchy, God, Country, Notre Dame, Our Lady, but also we have, like Lewis had said, first and foremost, we're a Catholic. We're not an Italian Catholic. We're not a Mexican Catholic. We're not a German Irish Catholic. We're Roman Catholics. We follow this church, our teachings. We're husbands, we're fathers, we're wives, we're mothers, and you have this conservation of values. And what you're seeing in the absurdity, again, the demon militates to absurdity. The absurdity of the progressive left is that they're showing their true values, and they're coming forth as extremely radical. The Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, males and female sports, and the Olympics. This is just absurd. And the average middle-class, blue-collar American that didn't have time and the luxury that you and I had, Jess, to go on for a further education, to get further theological training, our dads had to work, right? And they didn't have the luxury, but that doesn't mean because they're not have higher degrees doesn't mean they weren't intelligent. And so there's a lot of intelligent guys working in border patrol, working in law enforcement, hose draggers, firemen, soldiers. There's a lot of intelligent guys and gals out there that don't have the luxury of getting an education, higher philosophical education or theological, but their gut is very well centered in the teaching of the church, and they just came out and drove and said, "Yeah, no, this is goofy, man. We're done."
Yeah. There's something else I find interesting is that Kamala Harris, again, you'll know them by their fruits, or you'll know a person by the company they keep. Satanists and witches support Biden and Harris. Satanists and witches hate Trump. That says everything I need to know
Right.
as a Catholic.
Yeah.
Also, there's an incredible prophecy that I haven't talked much about it, but back in 1980, there's the Hermit of Loreto. His name is Tom Zimmer. He lives over in Italy, and he's basically the caretaker of the House of Loreto. In 1980, he said that Donald Trump will lead America back to God. I mean, people laugh. 1980? What? Are you kidding? This playboy's going to lead America back to God? And the Tom Zimmer, the Hermit of Loreto, he's the one that put together the book, the author of the Pieta Prayer Book, that little prayer book. But Tom Zimmer, he's a wealthy man that just gave all his wealth away and went to live a life as a hermit over in Italy, and he's a caretaker of the House of Loreto. During the Jubilee year in 2000, the Vatican was asking for donations to redo the door. Tom Zimmer sent a sizable donation to the Vatican, and you can put your name on a plaque, on a golden plaque on the door. Tom Zimmer gave a sizable donation to the Vatican for the Jubilee door in year 2000, and he put Donald Trump's name on that plaque, on that brick, and it's placed on the Holy Door of St. Peter's Basilica. Now, most people don't realize that the Holy Mass at the Vatican, they pray every day for the intentions of every name that's on the Holy Door. Donald Trump has been prayed for in the Mass since the year 2000 at St. Peter's Basilica, whether he knows it or not. We'll be right back. Stick around.